Hey guys, Flint, Michigan Water Supply Manager here. Today we're going to be talking about the Austrian wine poisoning. Since the early 1900s, Austria has been a long-time exporter of a sweet wine called Beta wine. This wine is made by leaving the grapes on the vine until they overly ripen and become sweeter. The sweeter the wine, the higher the price. In 1970s Austria, there was an unusual amount of rain in the summers when the grapes would normally be picked. This caused the grapes to fall off the vine before they could sweeten enough. The problem is many Austrian wine companies had contracts with supermarkets to provide a certain amount of Beta wine. Despite the rain, there was a surprising amount of Beta wine produced. So much so that Austrian authorities sought warrants from judges because the amount of wine produced seemed infeasible. Unfortunately, at this time, there was no evidence of tampering with the wine and the warrants were all denied. Also, at this time, there were only 18 workers in the Department of Agriculture that supervised over 60,000 companies, so there was likely no way to even begin testing at this time. So, with the wine companies unchecked and unsupervised, there was no way to examine how exactly these wine companies were keeping schedule. However, in 1980, a tip came that would change everything. A factory owner purchased a very large amount of the chemical diethylene glycol and tried to write it off as a business expense. He claimed to use it all for his one small tractor. With this information, a chemical investigation team was able to obtain a warrant where they confiscated the wine and sent samples to chemists. What they found was this wine contained a large amount of diethylene glycol. Diethylene glycol is a substance used in coolant and brake fluid and is what makes antifreeze taste sweet. However, when ingested into the body, the liver metabolizes it into glycolic acid, causing metabolic acidemia, which damages mitochondria, the powerhouse of the cell, causes renal failure, and in chronic exposure damages the nylon sheath, causing nerve damage and ultimately paralysis. The addition of diethylene glycol to Beta wine added sweetness and aroma as well as body and depth to the feel of the wine. In addition to the culinary benefits of using diethylene glycol in wine, it is very cheap and it's hard to track exactly where the glycol came from. Now, to give wine producers the benefit of the doubt, this was the 80s, there's no internet, and it's probable that many of the winemakers didn't know of the toxic effect that diethylene glycol had. They were just looking for a way to cheaply make a higher quality wine. After word of the wine testing got out, many wine manufacturers in Austria began dumping all their infected wine into sewage systems at the same time, not only making the fish drunk, but killing the microbacterial colonies in the sewage disposal systems and damaging the local ecosystem. Doing this unintentionally broadcasted the severity of the antifreeze wine, and beginning in 1985, the Austrian Department of Agriculture began the enervating task of testing 2 million liters of wine. It took them 6 months. Meanwhile, it was found that some forms of apple juice also contained the same diethylene glycol. There's a bit of chemistry to be known here. One of the known antidotes for diethylene glycol poisoning is ethanol, or commonly known as alcohol. Alcohol takes the same chemical that breaks down diethylene glycol into glycolic acid and uses it on itself, which means much more of the diethylene glycol can be urinated before it becomes poisonous. The problem with this grape juice is not nearly as much diethylene glycol as needed to have the same toxic effect. Pair this with the fact that many children drink apple juice, and you have one of the worst public disasters in the past 50 years. Overall, this incident severely damaged the reputation of the Austrian wine corporations, and many winemakers had to foreclose, as well as the Austrian vineyards, which had nothing to do with this malpractice. Official records say that nobody was provably injured by this mass poisoning. However, that is almost comically wrong. Modern historians believe that thousands of people were affected by this, and it is likely that many people died. Anyways, thanks for making it to the end. Bye everyone!
How should I dip it? Like this? Like this? Should I dip my burger like this? Huh? Better? Huh?